everyone. Welcome to the recap of Star Wars Celebration 2023 going on in beautiful, sunny London, England. My name is Doobie
No.
Mosley.
It's been really nice until right this moment.
I'm in an overcast Orlando, Florida, unfortunately. And the man in London right now with us is our CEO, the Big Cheese, Benji Breitbart. How you doing, Ben?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You know, this is my first international convention, and I'm used to being tired at a convention. You know, just you're up and all that. I never had that with a jet lag overlay before, where it's like convention plus jet lag. If I could have come here any earlier, I would have, but I didn't.
I hear the jet lag overlay is the next thing coming to Haunted Mansion out in California. So the big thing today was we got
my jet lag overlay caused by my JFK layover. Say that 5 times fast.
We got a Disney Parks panel featuring some Imagineers who were talking about Star Wars and Disney Parks, mostly a lot of historical stuff, but we also got some announcements dropped in there, which was kind of fun. So Ben, why don't you take us? You were in the room, right? You were in the room where it happened?
I was in the room where it happened, not a Disney Parks reference. But yeah, it was interesting because they didn't hype this up, which was a good thing, right? Like, they're not just going to suddenly be like, oh, Star Wars Celebration is coming, we should build another Galaxy's Edge somewhere. Like that's just not the way it works. So it was mainly talking about how so Matt Martin was there from Lucasfilm, and then you had Scott Trowbridge, Asa, and Morrow talking about from the Imagineering side. And so they talked really about how they work together, their approach to storytelling and integrated. And, there was sort of the theme of the day was, letting you live a Star Wars story and how you make that happen in a franchise that has storytelling, so you're not, that has canon at its core. So you're not just sort of interrupting it. And then also, acknowledging that Star Wars storytelling is continuing to evolve and wanting to make sure you bring those experiences to the parks and experiences as well. So
cool.
There.
And so the
moderator there. I don't know if you can pull that picture back up.
Yeah,
but she has a Star Wars podcast, and she, you're first you're like, I wonder how they, I always kind of wonder how they pick a moderator, like but she is the world's biggest galactic. I shouldn't say that, but she is a huge Galactic Star Cruiser fan. Even has a tattoo of one of the characters from the experience. So.
She told a great story about going on the Galactic Star Cruiser and she said when she was 6, she dreamed of having, a Rodian as a best friend. So then on the Star Cruiser, she got to meet one, and they kind of took to her, and then she got the tattoo and came back. So got emotional over that. It was really cool.
And one thing that I really appreciated being here. So you're in London, you're thinking Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is not, it's not the most accessible experience anyway, but then also, it's not just, a 3-hour flight at worst case, right? From any place for most places in America. But there's a lot of Galactic Star Cruiser love here. And, just overhearing people talk, there's a lot of Galactic Star Cruiser cosplay. So obviously this is the audience for it. I've had a lot of people ask me questions about the Galactic Star Cruiser, like, does it make sense to do it without kids? And you're like, oh, I guess I never thought about kids doing it, but yeah, there's virtually none when I did it. So, but yeah.
One of the more interesting things I thought, since we're talking Star Cruiser, Scott Trowbridge talked about was, obviously we know it hasn't been the most successful things in terms of sales, but he talked about its success in terms of guest response, right?
Yeah, and I think that's interesting in that if you remember, I'm old, so I remember in 1998 the cruise line didn't have great sales, but I guess guest experience numbers, and eventually that kind of took care of itself, and that the word got out. Similar thing with Alani, it when Disney creates new experiences, quite frankly, even Walt Disney World, it takes a little bit of time for the word to get out, and especially now where we're so quick to judge something's success in the first year when it's not built for that. It's you don't want you hope the narrative of its lack of initial sales doesn't make it sort of self-prophesize a failure, because I don't know if that'd be fair.
And he talked about how they usually keep these things internal, but it has been one of their more successful, his words at least, one of the most successful in terms of guest response things. I think he said since Fantasmic. No, just
right. Well, it's funny because it's like he says that, and I was like, they keep it internal, and thus it tops the list, and then they let everyone know. I remember Soren, they said it.
Right.
But
still,
I didn't get it for Stitcher's Great Escape, but I'm pretty sure I've not only ever heard this for Galactic Star Cruiser.
And then they also wanted, I believe this was controversial, but they wanted to make sure we knew it's not a hotel.
Yeah, and that was sort of like like there was people like chanting "not a hotel" in the pickup line for the poster because like it was like their mantra, and they're like "not a hotel," but you're there for 2 days, 2 nights. And it's funny because when you go on it, it's not a hotel, but you obviously see the branding issue when you're like, stay here for 2 nights, you will sleep here, and other things will happen. It is, I mean, if it's like a cruise line is essentially a hotel too. It's just
right.
It's a different.
So we did get a handful of announcements. The biggest one we'll get to shortly, but even regarding Galactic Star Cruiser, something regarding Gaia's music, right?
Yeah, so Gaia's music is going to be released on May 4th digitally. They're remastering it. Obviously it's a live performance in the park. So I almost said hotel, but on the Star Cruiser. And then later they'll do a special edition vinyl, which I think is just so cool. I don't know. I should have kept they gave us these posters.
Yeah. They talked a bit about creating the poster for Gaia and how they went to I don't remember his name, but one of the classic poster creators for like Led Zeppelin and such to create a concert poster. And they've sold it as a postcard, but today they gave out a full-size poster for the first time to the people in the room. And so if Benji times this right, just as I finish this story, he's going to reappear with that full-size poster.
This looks like a Led Zeppelin poster, right? Like
totally.
But yeah, cool. So Gaia is when you go on, she definitely plays a very important part in the story of the experience. It's out there, but you may not want to. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. It's actually there's another song from it. I don't want to spoil it. That's always stuck in my head that I want them to release. I don't know. It's not as it's maybe a little bit too much of a spoiler for them to release, but I'd love for them to release that too someday.
Is it called the maintenance? No, never mind. I'm not going to say that. The maintenance guy is actually. All right. So what else?
So, I gotta say, one of the sort of integral crew members from the experience, has that role. Showed up at our Mike's "Who's the Boss" podcast.
No, are you serious? I'm so happy. I'm so happy for Mike. I'm so happy. Wow. Okay. Cool.
And if let me see, I'm going to send you a tweet. I'm going to try and find a tweet to me, but I'm going to send to you, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too.
Okay, so they also talked about just kind of the development of Star Wars over the years, going back to Star Tour, the original Star Tours. They talked about Batuu and Galaxy's Edge. Was there anything you wanted to talk about regarding all of that?
So they did release. Fans have kind of like it was supposed to be revealed here, but the internet being what it is. That there's a volume 2 of Rex's playlist. It's not currently in Galaxy's Edge, but they kind of imply that those songs may be integrated into the Galaxy's Edge at some point. And then
I know you're looking for a tweet.
Yeah, I know. But I'm trying to think if there's new character experiences are coming, but they did not they did not reveal who they are, which is kind of frustrating because it's like, well, sort of like new attractions are coming to Disneyland, but we're not going to tell you. Like I kind of figured, but Hello.
Okay, I just have to jump in here because you're talking about the discussion of the possible new characters or new destinations with Star Tours, and I just loved the way that Scott Trowbridge handled that because it was like he did a really great job of balancing this desire to share. Right, I want to tell you all about it, but yet it's based on like storylines and stuff that's coming within these other franchises, and you're meant to discover those locations and those characters within those stories. And I don't want to, you know, ruin that experience by sharing with you what we're about to do. So just hold on, and when you see them there, maybe then you can be guessing if that's what's going to be coming here. Yeah, I just thought it was so delightful the way that Scott handled that.
And in the room, we were all like, "Is it gonna, you know? Well, okay, well, is it gonna be somebody from Ahsoka? Is it gonna be somebody from Skeleton Crew? Is it gonna be somebody like Acolyte? Doesn't seem like the right time, but maybe they'll evolve them forward. You know, like there's fan casting without even knowing where the heck these shows take place. Essentially,
Right.
Like everyone's
Yeah.
like,
And this-
But
and
on
I,
a,
so,
but on a,
I don't know if you
but
saw
on a
it, but it was
personal level.
funny. DJ Elliott, who Disney fans know, did a thing where he played the Star Tours music from the original Star Tours, but then he had people do the voice of Rex as it was happening. So he was like, they play the music. He goes like, we're caught in a tractor beam, and everyone was just it was a Star Tours love fest before the panel went on.
Just to reset it, because I don't think we formally said it, but they announced that Star Tours would have new destinations next year, and seemed to, I think, imply or flat out announce that it would be based on destinations that we'll be seeing in some of the Disney Plus series next year. So is this the first time Star Tours is going to integrate with Disney Plus, not just the Disney movies?
Yes, as far as I can. I mean, I hate to say that definitively, but I can't think of any time, because they were kind of going with every of the Skywalker saga films, and they for Mando. Yeah, so I can't think what it would be. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting, because I mean they've done a pretty good job. We kind of made fun of how they're going to change Star Tours. Yeah, sure they will, but they've done a really good job changing Star Tours. So as much content is coming, now we've got some anticipation that we're going to get a lot of new Star Tours. One would hope, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and one thing that I don't know if it was clear, it's coming to Disneyland, Walt Disney World, and Disneyland Paris. Historically, Disneyland Paris wasn't quite on the same cadence. But it's nice that they're going to get it, and now Din Djarin and Grogu are going to be at Disneyland Paris right now, which is exciting for them.
Which I guess that's how you got them in London, because they just had to channel over to have the appearance of you guys, right?
Yeah, can you imagine Grogu on the channel? Yeah.
Yes, I can. All right, so you sent me.
Although I can't say this. When we're done, I got something to tell you, but later.
That's good. That's good. Tell me all about this.
So Mike, did his Who's the Boss Live. It'll air when he gets around to it. And this is Adam Christopher. He did the Shadow of the Sith book, which really tells the story of Rey's parents. Palpatine's son and his wife. And he was talking about how, Mike does the 5 Star Wars questions, and one of them is impression or possession, which everyone picks possession. And Adam talked about, his Star Wars toys growing up and how he always wanted to have a Cap 2. He played with a Cap 2 toy, but obviously got, as many kids' toys go, it got lost in time. And when he wrote the book, he made the Cap 2 canon, because the Cap 2 is just a toy, because they ran out of vehicles in the movies and they wanted to make more toys. So they made a toy that doesn't exist in Star Wars, but he wrote it into the canon book. So now the Cap 2 is canon. And Mike had to actually run to an Elton John concert, so I'm in here in his place. But we were able to, Mike was able to facilitate getting him a Cap 2 in the box figure that had been lost to time in his personal.
That is so awesome. So this really, we should picture Mike here with him, not you. You had nothing.
Yeah. Please picture Mike. I would much prefer Mike to have been in this picture, but unfortunately, Mike had to leave.
And Mike is a monster. So he went to London. He did everything in London. He's doing Star Wars Celebration and then writing about it afterwards. And do I want to sleep? No, let's go to an Elton John concert while I'm out here. Mike is insane.
Because he comes to me and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go." I think he's expecting me to want to go too, and I'm like, I mean, I love Elton John, but pacing.
So let me see. So we got the Oga's playlist. We've got Gaia's release on May 4th, plus a vinyl coming sometime after that. And we know about Star Tours. Any other announcements from today?
Yeah. So I mean, this is a little bit wonky, but I got to see the first 2 episodes, which is really like 4 stories of Young Jedi Adventures coming to Disney Plus and Disney Junior, and they revealed that they will be visiting Batuu. And what's neat about this to me is Young Jedi Adventures takes place during the High Republic. So this is a much earlier look at Batuu. Now I know it's on a Disney Junior show, but it's going to be a new look at Batuu. So it'll be the Batuu we know, but in a much earlier time and a much more successful time. Batuu's always been sort of positioned as the Route 66 rest stop that the highway bypassed at some point, and so this is Batuu in its glory days. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Great. Anything else from this panel? I know we want to talk a little bit about other stuff that happened today at Celebration, but from this panel?
No, I think, it's, if they streamed it, and hopefully it'll be available, moving forward. But it's neat just to hear how they talk about it, because we can talk about it all day, but when you have the creators speaking about something, at least you get in their mindset. You might not agree with everything they say, but at least their rationale and their thought, which I think makes it much more enjoyable, or at least you get you inside their head a little bit.
And if you get the chance to watch it, I do recommend it. I watched it, the stream, and the excitement is there. They're very proud of what they've created. They make it clear, we created this for us, the fans. Scott Trowbridge, at the beginning when he started talking about, and you could see him looking at all the fans, and he was clearly getting emotional just seeing everyone out there that he helps create these things for. The passion is real. Even though he said his line was great. I don't know if this was then, or I think this may have been when he was on Celebration stage after, but as Walt Disney said,
No, that was stage.
As long as there's imagination in the world, we still got to go to work, or something like that. He said, I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
But despite the fact that the job,
he doesn't work in the Disneyland sign shop, just to be clear.
At one point he said, it's his hard work, but it's work that they love and they have a passion for, and watching them have that passion only enhances our experience, I think.
And that's a thread that I've seen with a lot of the folks that Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, is they've when they're talking, you can watch planes literally land from my window, which is
I'm so jealous now.
They talk about it's cool to get into it, and then it becomes normal, right? It's your job, and then you get these moments of coming to a Star Wars Celebration, and it recharges you because you see the impact. It reminds you of all the fans that you're working for, essentially. And just like if you do, like I worked at Disney World. At some point, that became I got to get up and go to work, and you're like, you have to hit yourself and be like, I got to go up and go to the Magic Kingdom. There's worse things to do, but every job becomes a job at some point. But sure, that you have these moments for these folks where they get to see the impact that their creations have. And it seems like, I've go to a lot of Comic Cons and things like that, but that this group of Star Wars fans or Star Wars creators really appreciate it. And, the internet can be an awful place, and, that's not the place you're going to go to get reaffirmed in any creative decision you make. But to see, these people, Andy Serkis getting moved as he sees all these people in his Andor outfit with life preservers around their waist. It's really kind of neat. It's neat to see them get excited about it in a way that, I think, particularly in the challenging times we've had in the last 4 or 5 years, I think really hit home.
A couple of the takeaways for me, I figure I'd jump over here and join the conversation, was when they made sure to kind of hint and mention in a fun Imagineering style way the Wookiee mode that's been rumored and out on the internet. The fact that they kind of fed into that, I loved that. I also the Scott talking about and I've lost it again, but the three of them, it was Scott mentioned this, and Awesome mentioned this, and Matt Martin, who's with Lucasfilm, mentioned that they like to lurk and see people reacting, and it just cracked me up, the idea that it, unlike an actor, when you're on stage, you get that immediate response to your performance, or but here they like create this story opportunity, and then they don't really, they have to like make this effort to hang around to get a feel for what you think of it.
We know a particular Imagineer who created an amazing thing for a park that she's never even got to go to for years and years to ever even see it for herself, let alone see guest reaction to it. So exactly. Yeah, it is a different type of artistry. But when they get the chance, as they talked about, they do go there and watch the guests and, can get some of that.
And
I think
no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say real quick about Asa. He was the host of that Imagineering DVD series, and so our son was a big fan of his when he was little. He used to pretend to be Asa, and so now to see him kind of on stage along Scott Trowbridge doing these kinds of panels for us is cool, because I just remember him as the guy who was the Imagineering DVD host.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's been, like they had a moment earlier at the Obi-Wan panel where like, they have the DJ Elliott warms up the venue, and it's not like a D20X where there's a DJ and a warm-up guy. And he brought up all the Obi-Wans to the stage. All the people are cosplaying as Obi-Wan. And then unbeknownst to anybody, including DJ Elliott, Ewan McGregor just like walks out and just starts judging all the Obi-Wans. And, you could tell that like, it was just, he was back there and just wanted to have some fun. And it's been nice to see that. This has been,
you can find that. You can find an image of that on the Who's the Boss Pod tweets. Mike Celestino, who covers this.
Yeah, I think
Star Wars from Laughing Place.
Yeah, he tweeted from Laughing Place too.
Did he? Okay, from both, from Laughing Place or Who's the Boss Pod. Great moment.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I think one of the things that when I went to my first Star Wars celebration after the acquisition, I was kind of down because everyone was so angry, right? That's, they would say, this isn't the way it really happened, or, and you're like, well, like, it wasn't their Star Wars. If it wasn't original trilogy, it was garbage, right? But now that time has passed and there's so much great Star Wars out there, and I think a lot of the new Star Wars is making some of the old Star Wars even better. I think we're getting, by filling in some of the gaps and making it, explaining some of the things that maybe not make sense. There's so much positivity this time, and I want to say it's been really neat to be here to see the fans' positivity, see cosplay from, obviously you have the Luke Skywalkers and the, but you also have the, Chandrila Starline pilots, and you have, the Mandos, and you have the Fennec Shans, and the obviously the Sokatanos and the Bad Batch and all those folks. It's been really neat to see the increase in diversity in terms of where the characters come from. It's been fun.
I like that. Obviously, the Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano is such a... Is Ashley there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She had an Ahsoka Tano meetup.
Yeah, Ashley planned her sketch like she waited for this day, and then like everything else went around this. I mean, this is a big deal as it should be to her.
Yeah, of course.
But it was funny because it's another funny moment that happened earlier today was they did Villains of the Sequel Trilogy, which was Andy Serkis, Snoke, Captain Phasma, and Ian McDermott, the Emperor. Yeah, and so they're talking, and Ian just like, I just like to point out today is Easter Sunday, the day of resurrection. Like,
so good.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that was part of the Star Wars Celebration live stream. So you should be able to find that on the Star Wars YouTube channel, day 3. It was earlier in the day, so you should look for it there. And then a lot of times when you have these panels that are kind of more formalized, then they do a more casual setting, and you can find them again later in the day. And they did this with the Disney Parks team. And when they were on the casual stage, Ben, I thought that some of the conversation they had about the Halcyon, they used terms like evolution. They talked a lot about how the Disney Parks experiences are meant to kind of provide a construct so that they can adapt them as Star Wars canon adapts. So it gave me the impression that they were hinting that perhaps different story elements that than we've seen previously at the Halcyon may be making an appearance. So it was something that I didn't hear teased in the panel.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that, but one thing I got a sense of was they talked about how these Galaxy's Edge and the Halcyon are infrastructure to continue to evolve storytelling. And I think it's not unfair to say that compared to Avengers Campus, there hasn't been as much changeover in Galaxy's Edge. But it seems like they're moving away from that sort of opening day sort of commitment to that particular moment and moving, obviously you've seen that with Din and Grogu and Fennec and Boba. So it'll be interesting to continue to see how they evolve both Galaxy's Edge and Galactic Star Cruiser, but also the way that I think you're going to see Star Wars parks type storytelling and even new ways in the near future. And maybe outside parks and how they bring those stories to Star Wars fans wherever they are, or in other places or wherever they want them, or whatever kind of buzz phrasing they use at the time.
Right? Yeah, that was kind of the gist that I was getting from this word of evolution. It was almost like they were hinting that there was some sort of way we could have a Disney parks storytelling kind of experience, but maybe in a way we haven't yet seen them offer to us. And so I was very intrigued by the language they were using.
And one of those things too that I think was, and I think we always have to remember, right, is that Star Wars Celebration was announced a year ago. They don't make sort of green lighting decisions based on what Star Wars Celebration is. And I think,
or the Expo.
Or the Expo, or any of these, the Comic-Con or whatever, and everyone was like, well, they didn't know. It's like, well, they like announced a bunch of stuff like 4 months before. They're going to announce something 3 months later, but there's sort of a window. You can pull certain things back, you can pull a little certain things forward, but there's a window that you can really play with, right? Before you start pulling permits and, after it gets greenlit. And I think you're going to see Star Wars, especially now that you're going to have new movies, a sort of more consistent Disney Plus cadence. I think you're going to see some fun things coming. We already have seen some neat evolution in merchandise and food and beverage and things like that. But I think they're gearing up now that everything's kind of open and running and you're past the pandemic. I think we'll see more.
One of the other panels today was just lost my mind. Obi-Wan Kenobi, and was this Mike Celestino who covered this for us?
Yeah, I was in the room though.
Oh, okay. So we'll have a full article on this. It's just so cool to see this picture, see little. She was Leia, right?
Yeah.
See little Leia there, and Ewan McGregor.
She's so smart. I mean, it was just like I felt so bad about myself I was not that smart when I was her age. I'm not that smart now, and I gotta say the one thing, and I don't know how it picked up on the live stream, but the Hayden love was so cool to see, and it's been. Even Ahmed Best, when they talk about him in Mando, I guess that was on the first. When was that? They talked about that at some point. It was some panel, and how he was the perfect guy for role, and how fun it was to bring him back, and how much love he has for Star Wars. And I think, it goes back to that positivity theme. It's just been nice to see people wanting to enjoy it. Now that there's so much Star Wars that exists beyond the original trilogy, and the original, there's no question the original trilogy will always hold a special place in this evolution of things. But I'm glad that because otherwise there won't be more Star Wars, and we all want more Star Wars.
Yeah, we do.
The overarching spirit of gratitude that you see from every angle in Star Wars Celebration is amazing. And listening to Vivian talk about her role as Leia, when she was asked about certain moments that she performed, you understood why her performance was so strong and so easy to fall in love with, because her depth of understanding of people and processing situations and circumstances, her answers were so eloquent. It was remarkable. It was remarkable.
It was funny because like it was like, you know, when I saw that, it was like, that's an actually good acting performance, right? You know, like, and then you know, you kind of realize like maybe that's not the best compliment, but it was, right? And
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's the other thing. I mean, talking about appreciation, Dave Filoni is seeing so much appreciation, and not only from the fans, but from his fellow creators. I mean, Jon Favreau would basically build a monument to him, and Kathy Kennedy, obviously, and you know, seeing him kind of take. I mean, it's not in name necessarily, but it's sort of a chief creative officer role there, and you know, there's you see the decisions he's made, and especially I would say post Clone Wars. You know, now that when he was really able to kind of integrate into this next level of Star Wars storytelling, where you know the example that they gave was, well, you know, John wanted, you know, Mandalorians to wear their helmet, you know, for like that Western feel, right? Like you don't want them to just take off their helmets all the time. Well, obviously Mandalorians take off their helmet all the time in the Clone Wars. So instead of just saying no, he worked with John to figure out a way to make that part of the story, that there are Mandalorians that have it, which is, especially this season, has just added this whole extra level of fun to the storyline of Mandalorian. And, you know, working with the people, not, you know, being the gatekeeper can often be, you know, quite a power trip. And you really have to be a special kind of storyteller to be that collaborative. And I'm hoping that now that, you know, we're in this sort of next era of Star Wars where he's really taking an assertive role, you know, especially, I mean, directing a live action movie. I mean, I remember when I met him, right, when they announced Star Wars: The Clone Wars at Star Wars Weekends, where, you know, you're like Ashley talking about, you know, she was probably like 20 or something crazy like that, and you know, they're you know, they had an Ahsoka, like, and everyone's like, you know, just whiny girl Jedi, right? Like, is to see him really. I mean, I'll be frank. I think one of the problems with the sequel trilogy that I think they're fixing with Mandalorian is it has no consistency, right? And if Dave's able to provide that, which I think he has with, you know, his work on the Mandalorian along with John and Boba Fett and all that, I think, you know, we could really get a lot of special stuff coming.
Yeah,
You've got a Kevin Feige in the Star Wars world.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's what we wanted, right? We wanted someone to have the, you know, especially, you know, Marvel is a little bit different because you can justify a lot more just by, you know, the multiverse and all that, right? But like Star Wars, you know, it's really the biblical nature of it, you know, right? There were people really want it to be, because it's so real to them, they want it to make sense. They don't want it to be, you know, vary from what is known, and you don't have the tricks that you have in a lot of sci-fi where, you know, time travel and, you know, which is probably for the best, or it is for the best, but you got to be more careful, right? Because, you know, if you write a book about a character and that's canon, then that's canon. There's no, you know, I mean, you can always sort of justify it through some other story, but then that's a story and you got to tell it.
Right.
Can I ask Ben? I know you've been doing these recaps throughout the weekend, but I know it's beginning to wind down now. What's kind of like, if you had to pick like your highlight, like your pinnacle moment of the, like what you're really going to take away? It could be anything, a piece of merchandise, anything. What kind of, you know, what would you carry away as being like, yep, that was Star Wars Celebration 2023?
I have a couple. I feel like it's been fun to see Mike really excel. I mean, he had the podcast,
Awesome.
And on the podcast stage, people have approached him. He got some good feedback from some of our partners on his coverage. So that's been really cool to see.
Good.
You know, and I think, I mean, and I like Star Wars. Do not get me wrong. but I am not as avid. Because I have a lot of franchises I gotta watch, and I was like, I don't. It's been so much fun to see the fans be so happy. I mean, we had Star Wars Celebration last year, but we're still doing the whole mask thing, and in many places, and it was just seeing smiling faces has been so much fun. The one thing that is hard is I keep thinking like everyone I bump into is just doing a bad Empire accent, and then I realize no, they're actually British.
We have a question here. I think
you, Ben.
this is worth bringing up from All in the Game. They have announced 3 movies, 3 cool-looking movies. How confident are you that all 3 of these will actually happen, given what's been happening over the past few years?
I'm not. But I do have faith that if they don't happen, they don't happen for the right reason. I don't need. I think we get a little side. We get excited about a project, and then we get disappointed when it's canceled. But there's a reason it's canceled. It's not just canceled because they don't. So we don't know the script. We don't know what's really, what happened. And, especially in an integrated universe like this, I'd rather them do it great, less than quality over quantity. And what I will say I like is that they seem to have a good idea of what they want to do now. It's not just sort of random movie that someone pitched and they said, sure. I mean, they still might have that, but this is like, okay, we're going to do something, we're going to basically wrap up the Mandalorian storyline, or whatever you want to call it, the Mandoverse, or whatever that part of Star Wars is. We're going to tell basically the starting of the Jedi. I'll go back as far as you can go. And then we're going to continue essentially the Star Wars Skywalker saga with Rey. I don't know what the plot is, obviously. But, so at least now, okay, past, present, future, got it. They all seem to have a good idea of what they want to be. I think some of the challenges we've had in the past was, they're going to make a random Star Wars movie, and then they don't really know what it is yet. Whereas this like, okay, at least we're at the part where they know what they want the movie to be. So therefore, then it just the directors may change, the writers may change, but I think they have a basic idea of what kind of movie they want to make, which is great.
Anything else before?
I agree with All in the Game here. I think his is pretty much a lock because they basically started the plot in Mando and everything. So, the nice thing is with the volume, you can make these films more economical. So, there's not as much pressure. It doesn't need to be. It needs to be successful, but it doesn't need to be, Avatar 2 successful.
Oh.
So let's see here.
Sorry. Just want to check. Was there anything else you want to mention before we kind of wrap it up?
I don't think so. I'm just trying to think, because I know we didn't do this yesterday, so I'm just thinking of Grand Admiral Thrawn. People lost their mind. I don't know if we covered it, but basically they showed the trailer, the Ahsoka trailer, but they added in the face of Thrawn.
I read about that.
And so then they brought out, Lars, who voiced him in Rebels, who's going to be portraying him in live action. And that you would have thought, that, it's a rock star moment. And so that was pretty cool. And then Return of the Jedi coming back to theaters for a limited run to celebrate its 40th anniversary. Curious to see, does it say 20th Century Fox on it? Is a new kind of restoration.
These are the things Benji thinks about when something like that.
And then, there was one. Tales of the Jedi season 2. Speaking of Dave Filoni, which is kind of cool. I really enjoy. I don't know if it got as much attention as it probably should have, but Tales of the Jedi on Disney Plus, which is basically the Count Dooku story plus young Ahsoka story, split up amongst I think 6 episodes. It's a lot of fun on Disney Plus, and I'm glad that's coming back because it's a great way to tell stories that don't necessarily fit anywhere else.
Well, if you want to keep up on Star Wars Celebration, as we mentioned, there's a consistent live stream going on the Star Wars YouTube channel, but we're covering it obviously on our YouTube channel as well. We've got tons and tons and tons of articles we've been putting up throughout because Mike Celestino is not allowed to sleep for these 4 days. We've got our Twitter, extremely active Twitter_laughing_place, as well as Mike's Who's the Boss Twitter feed. So yeah, stay up to date with everything going on in this awesome event in London that I'm excited to talk to everybody about once it's all over and they've had a chance to recover a little bit. So
yeah.
Thanks,
we'll
Ben.
be back tomorrow after the closing ceremonies to kind of, I think, put a button on it, because tomorrow's the animation day. We'll get Bad Batch, Star Wars Visions. So it's not really it's not over yet. So one more day.
So like, subscribe, ring the bell, and please choose all notifications, and you won't miss any of our Star Wars Celebration coverage or any of the other nifty stuff we do here on our YouTube channel. Thanks, Ben. How do they say goodbye over there across the pond?
Cheerio, Pip-Pop. I just got some news.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay, so they are going. I'll forward you the email. Maybe you can pull up the image. Hasbro announced 2 new figures coming.
We haven't even talked merchandise.
This morning, Hasbro officially revealed 2 new additions to Star Wars Black Series line, which is like their high-end, a fan line of action figures. Which Darth Maul Old Master figure, based off of Battlefront 2, as well as Doc Ondar from Galaxy's Edge. So obviously, Darth Maul is cool, but getting a Doc Ondar figure with, based off his Den of Antiquities at Blackspire Outpost is exciting. They'll be available to pre-order at 1 p.m. Eastern time at Shop Disney on May 4th.
And the pieces that they've decided to include with Doc Ondar are really cool because they've taken into account his story as being, that antiquities shopkeeper. And so it has like Jedi and Sith holocrons and the sword. It's not going to come to mind, but it's a specific weapon that you can find, I'm guessing, among the items that you could pick up if you were to go to Doc Ondar's. And so these are the
Sword of
that are coming with that.
Cassian, Kashhyun.
So it's super cool. The items that are coming along with this figure, really, really neat. So
it's cool to see his robe.
So cool. So cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good shit.
Well, hello.
Well, you were showing the picture. I was gonna.
Oh, sorry. I'll bring it back up, maybe. But.
Sorry. Sorry. I was trying to find the link, and it's literally just the word "here." I couldn't find it, but there you go. There it is. Hey, that's Doc Ondar. That's cool. All right.
Better stop before my notifications reveal.
Yeah, let's a little privacy issue. All right. Well, thanks for that last minute breaking news. As we said, stay tuned. Our YouTube channel for everything. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Live from the pond, across the pond.